Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Judy Malinowski? Judy is the subject of a documentary titled The Fire That Took Her. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Judy Malinowski was born on August 26, 1983, and was raised in the Columbus, Ohio area. When she was young, she dreamed of being a school teacher, living in a nice neighborhood, and having a husband who loved her. At some point, Judy married and had 2 daughters. Later, she separated from her husband. When Judy was 27 years old, she had surgery to treat ovarian cancer. She became dependent on OxyContin and Percocet after the surgery. She was no longer able to care for her children due to the addiction. Her mother cared for one of her daughters and her sister for the other. Judy would later say that she felt like scum during this time period. She was treated in a substance use rehabilitation facility, and by early 2015, Judy was no longer using substances. She regained custody of her daughters. In April 2015, she started dating a man named Michael Slager. Michael was a career criminal who Judy had known since 2007. Judy would later claim that Michael introduced her to heroin. She became dependent on heroin and crack cocaine. Judy and Michael had a tumultuous relationship that involved multiple contacts with law enforcement. Judy later admitted that she took money from Michael during the time they were together. She indicated that Michael was violent and that she was worried he would kill her. Michael said that the relationship did not involve any violence. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On August 2, 2015, 31-year-old Judy Malinowski became aware that a bed was available at a substance use treatment facility called Parkside. She had 40-year-old Michael Slager pick her up in his black pickup truck, with the intent of checking into Parkside, like Michael was going to drive her there and drop her off. The couple made several stops before arriving at the facility, including to buy heroin. This is fairly common. Individuals who use heroin often use it right before going into treatment. Michael dropped off Judy at Parkside, but she did not check in. Judy smoked cigarettes, which the facility permitted, but they did not allow open packages of cigarettes to be brought inside. They were concerned that people could put something in the cigarettes, like other drugs. Only cigarettes in sealed packages were allowed in the facility. Judy refused to enter the facility without her cigarettes. They were extremely important to her. Michael picked up Judy, and they drove to a Speedway gas station to buy cigarettes. By this time, Judy was high on the heroin that she had purchased earlier. Judy walked behind the gas station. Michael drove his vehicle around to where she was. The two argued for about 5 to 10 minutes. Judy threw soda in a styrofoam cup on Michael. She fell to the ground after this. Judy would later say that she tripped. Michael went to his pickup truck and retrieved a gas can. He then dumped gasoline on Judy, starting with her head and working his way down. Judy was pleading for help as she remained on the ground in the same place. Michael walked to his pickup truck, turned around, and then walked back to where Judy was. He used a lighter to set Judy on fire. Michael stood back and watched her burn. After a witness ran onto the scene, Michael used a fire extinguisher to extinguish the flames. Judy was severely burned. She had burns over about 90 or 95% of her body. Michael had minor injuries. Judy and Michael were both transported to a hospital. Michael told the police that Judy threw soda on him and spit on him. He threw gasoline on her in order to damage her clothing, not with the intent of setting her on fire. She sat down and Michael was about to leave. Judy asked him not to leave and then requested a cigarette. When Michael walked over to give Judy a light, she burst into flames. Michael said that he could not believe what happened, and it was an accident. Judy had removed her sweatshirt, and it did not occur to Michael that there would still be gasoline on her. The police asked Judy a few questions. She was able to shake her head yes or no. She signaled yes when asked if Michael had thrown gasoline on her. Michael was charged with aggravated arson, felonious assault, and possession of criminal tools. Judy was in a coma for 8 months, but then she regained consciousness. The prosecution wanted her to testify via live video, although they weren't really sure if she could. Michael decided to plead no contest in December 2016 in order to avoid Judy testifying. It was fairly obvious that Judy was not going to survive, and Michael did not want her testimony available for the murder trial, which would result from her death. Michael received the maximum sentence for his offenses, 11 years in prison. The state wanted to make sure that Michael was convicted of murder after Judy died. Therefore, they approached Judy about testifying. Her testimony would be preserved and presented during Michael's trial. Essentially, the state was asking Judy to testify in the trial for her own murder. Judy was constantly on powerful pain medication due to the severe burns. She was in agony all the time, even with the medication. Unfortunately, Judy had developed a high tolerance for opioids prior to being burned, which only made her situation worse. Judy needed to be able to think clearly in order to testify. She needed to be of sound mind. Therefore, her pain medication was lowered to a level where she would be coherent. Her recorded testimony took place on January 26, 2017. Under direct examination, Judy explained what happened on August 2, 2015. Here was her version of events. Judy and Michael stopped at the gas station to get cigarettes. They argued for 5 or 10 minutes. She threw soda at him. Michael became extremely upset, retrieved the gas can, and poured gasoline on her. He had an evil look on his face and would not respond to Judy's cries for help. Michael backed away for about 30 seconds, pulled a lighter out of his pocket, and walked toward her. At this point, he set her on fire, and his eyes went black. Under cross-examination, Judy admitted that she had stolen money from Michael in the past, and that her memory was not functioning too well. There was also some discussion about where the lighter actually came from. It might not have been in Michael's pocket, rather it could have been in his pickup truck. About 5 months later, on June 27, 2017, Judy Malinowski died as a result of the burns. Michael was charged with aggravated murder. In order to avoid the death penalty, Michael pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1, Michael had a long criminal history and had spent time in prison prior to the attack on Judy. At various times, he had been charged with offenses like making a false police report, obstructing official business, assault, menacing, aggravated menacing, inducing panic, resisting arrest, carrying a concealed deadly weapon, domestic violence, disorderly conduct, stalking, breaking and entering, aggravated burglary, receiving stolen property, and theft. Michael had been charged multiple times with some of these offenses, including aggravated menacing, assault, and domestic violence. To Michael, criminal charges were like trading cards. He wanted to collect the whole set. There is this sense that Michael was destined to spend his life in prison. It was just a question of which crime would achieve this outcome. Item number 2. Essentially, Judy argued that Michael was keeping her trapped in substance dependence. He introduced her to heroin, supplied her with heroin on a daily basis, and maintained control over her with substances. Michael was painted as this enabler who manipulated Judy by using her addiction against her. He knew that she would do anything for substances. As he took advantage of her, he was careful not to compromise his own abilities. For example, he did not use drugs personally. Judy claimed that Michael didn't leave her side after they started dating, which again speaks to this idea that he was manipulative and dominating. Judy's assertion may be correct, but it's also possible that Michael was trying to help her some of the time. Clearly, he committed a terrible attack and should be held accountable, but prior to that, Michael had taken Judy to substance use treatment facilities and had called paramedics to assist her. Michael was no angel, but I'm not sure the story of him leveraging substances to control Judy makes a lot of sense. I think it's more likely that he didn't know what to do. Sometimes he bought her drugs, and on other occasions, he assisted her to get clean. It should not be surprising that a person with Michael's history would not always act rationally and consistently. I think that Michael was frustrated that Judy's drug habit was costing him so much money. The day before the attack, Judy and Michael argued about the financial impact of her use. She was trying to avoid withdrawal symptoms and therefore looking for drugs all the time. One might infer from the documentary about this case, The Fire That Took Her, that Michael was concerned that Judy was going to get clean, like he was going to lose control of her if she was no longer on substances. But I think it's more likely that he was angry over her continued use. These substances were expensive, and for much of the time, he was the one paying for them. Item number 3, why did Michael set Judy on fire? Not surprisingly, the state and Michael's defense have different theories about what happened. The state argued that Michael set Judy on fire in order to kill her. He only extinguished the flames after a witness approached the scene. Michael knew that it wouldn't look too good if he didn't act in some way to help her. Michael's defense argued that he had bipolar disorder and intermittent explosive disorder. He killed Judy in a bipolar outburst. In my opinion, Michael set Judy on fire because he was mad at having soda thrown on him. He flew into a rage. This was a massive overreaction. He thought to himself, well, if she's going to throw soda on me, I will throw gasoline on her. That will teach her a lesson. After pouring the gasoline on her, Michael was still in a rage. He wasn't satisfied with that. Therefore, he used the lighter to set her on fire. I think this crime was really about Michael's lack of impulse control. He had a long history of getting into trouble because he could not control his behavior. Item number 4. Judy's relationship with Michael was complex, which is typical in situations involving substances. She loved Michael, yet was afraid of him. Michael's lack of remorse was hurtful to Judy, even though one would expect him not to have remorse given his history. Judy felt bad for him, even though he burned her horribly and ultimately killed her. Judy did not want Michael to die. This desire may have played a part in him receiving a life sentence instead of going to trial and facing the death penalty. Now moving to my final thoughts. The immediate cause of Judy's death was being burned by an impulsive criminal. But as is the case in almost all homicides, a complex set of circumstances contributed to the outcome. Judy's dependence on substances facilitated her interacting with someone as dangerous as Michael. People wonder why Judy ever gave Michael a second look, much less dated him, like she could have done better than someone who is bad news. In reality, I think Judy selected Michael because he was bad news. That's what she needed in order to maintain her substance use. Michael was like another substance to Judy. Heroin and crack cocaine are dangerous, but Michael turned out to be the most dangerous drug of all. Judy could not get rid of the drugs, and she could not get rid of Michael. Her substance use kept her in contact with an erratic and angry offender. What Judy needed was mental health treatment and compassion. What she received was a lover who could not decide whether he wanted to help or harm her. No matter what Judy did wrong in her life, she did not deserve what happened to her. She endured excruciating pain for 697 days. During that time, she had 59 surgeries. Judy was able to testify against her own killer and ensure his conviction, but also limit his sentence to one consistent with her desire for mercy. Judy's legacy could be envisioned in many ways, but perhaps the most notable is a level of compassion so pronounced she was willing to spare her own killer from death. Those are my thoughts in the case of Judy Malinowski. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.